So Win Studios came out with their second project, the Win x65, following up after their 1800 F-roadless keyboard, the Win X. Now, I personally have not tried the Win X, so I'm going to avoid making any comments regarding that keyboard, such as like comparisons, because I only try to talk about products where I've actually had first-hand experience with. But as for expectations, what I've read and what I've been told is that essentially it's just the build quality and the essence of that keyboard basically just carried over into a smaller 65% layout. So let's dive in and see what this keyboard is all about. Now this video will not just serve as a review, but also sort of a build guide, since at the time of filming, an official build guide is not available. Now, quick notes, orders will open online at Win Studios' website on February 15th, which is less than a couple weeks away from the time of this upload, and there will only be 500 units made for in-stock sale. I was told that this is not a prototype and is the final product, so what you see here in the video will be what you get out of the box. Upon opening from top to bottom, we have the components first, which I'll go over individually in the upcoming section, and the keyboard case itself sitting at the bottom of the box. The Win x65 comes in a handful of colors. I myself was sent the E-white and yellow. Other available colors include anodized black and green, black and orange, and black and gray. So let's start building this, and I'll discuss each of the components in a review discussion format as we go, and later there will be a few sound tests. The keyboard includes a top case and two bottom cases, A and B, where case A is sandwiched between the top case and case B via 8 screws. Bottom case A is the one that holds the pre-installed brass weight and the center USB-C daughter board. As for the colors and surface finish, it's pretty smooth and consistent all across with rounded edges. You may also refer to this exploded render for reference if you want a more visual representation of the anatomy. So the first thing I recommend doing is just install the triangular rubber feet at the bottom of the case at the 4 corners, just to get it out of the way quick and easy. The rubber gaskets can also be installed at this stage either on the plate itself or the top and bottom cases. I recommend installing them on your case so that if you ever wanted to switch your plates, you won't have to install another set of gaskets on multiple plates. Next would be preparing the PCB and plate. I recommend downloading VIA from caniusevia.com to test your PCB before moving forward to make sure your PCB fully works. Connect your PCB to the JST cable from the daughter board. Use tweezers to check each switch socket to make sure that the keys light up on VIA. Now for the bottom case A, go ahead and lay down the 1mm pour-on sheet into it like so. On top of that goes the 2mm pour-on sheet. Now we're not going to be touching this for a while, so set it aside. I do this just to consolidate parts so there's less things spread out over my desk and working space. I'm not a fan of green PCBs personally. I would much rather prefer black or some other color. In my opinion, green just seems basic and kinda cheap. I did get a solder PCB here, but there is a hot swap option as well. Plate options only come with the POM and carbon fiber. I got the POM plate here as I was told that carbon fiber was not ready at the time of shipping to creators. For the PCB, I also added Band-Aid mod to it, as this has become my personal standard process to reduce or eliminate any unwanted friction and rattling. You will need your own choice of stabilizers, and in which case here, I chose my C3s in cream colored housing and purple wires. I have the wires looped with BDZ grease and Krytox 205 grade ZIL for the housing inserts. Once the stabilizers are installed, you can use these standoffs if you want. You'll get a round-headed screw that secures the standoff to the PCB side, and a flat-headed screw that secures the plate onto the standoff itself. In my first attempt, I completely forgot that these standoffs even existed on my desk, so I completely skipped it, but still finished the build anyways. I did a typing test, the build was solid, and then I went back, rebuilt it with the standoffs, and did a typing test. I felt like nothing changed. However, I do still suggest using them because just the sheer number of foam layers and sheets that come in this kit, although you don't have to install everything, but if you wanted to, the standoffs do help keep the sheets from sliding around when installing your switches. It will make the building process easier, but the ending result of typing feel and sound is not going to change, at least in my observation. Next step is to lay the PE foam on top of the PCB. This layer is the most optional in my opinion, and I'll talk about why later. You also need to cut out the parts shown here since these are just extra replacement pieces for single switches. Now, depending whether you want to go 6.25U spacebar or 7U Sangen, you might need to cut out this piece here as well at the bottom row to make room for where the 7U stabilizer insert would go. In this step, you also have to slip some parts of the PE foam underneath the stabilizer wires. Then on top goes the 3.5mm pour-on foam. There are also cutouts on this layer that allow you to fit those standoffs in. Next would be to lay down your plate and then the thin silicone sheet. If you have these standoffs installed onto your PCB, then go ahead and fasten the screws in to secure the stacked layers you've assembled so far. At this point, you can start installing your choice of switches. For this build, I went with my lubed and filmed Gateron yellows with the milky top and black bottoms. I installed some of the switches at the corners and edges as well as a few in the middle to start. I tested the stabilizers with the longer keycaps to make sure everything was alright. Luckily, my lubing methods for stabs were pretty good on the first shot. Then I proceeded to install the rest of the switches and soldered them in. One thing I don't like about Palm and PC plates is the building process when installing switches. They are so soft and flexible, you will need a tool to assist pulling or prying the plates back up into the switch to have it snap in place. At this point, the PCB and plate stack is done and now can be lowered into the bottom case on top of the foam that was set in earlier. Connect the JST cable to the PCB from the daughter board and make sure that the wire sits within the channel. Place the top case on top of the bottom case A and then flip it over together. Then slide the final bottom case B on and around like so and fasten the 8 screws that hold it together. The last step is installing keycaps. Now, Win Studios did send me these black and orange keycap sets. Not sure what set or brand it is, but I chose not to use it because it just does not fit the color theme of the keyboard itself. I went with GMK Lux as a better match. Just for reference, the yellow on the Win x65 is just slightly darker than the yellow from the Rama Switch Puller and GMK Lux package. Some extra quick specs. Win x65 has a 7-degree typing angle and weighs in at around 1.45 kilos for those who care, which is just a tad bit over 3 pounds. For the sound test, I will have the board fully loaded with everything it comes with and without the PE foam layer installed for comparison. I will also have Tempest Tape mod to both configurations for extras. Okay, here are my thoughts before we wrap. I recently came across one of Tea's uploaded replayed streams, and in that video he said something like, if you load a keyboard up with foam and it still sounds bad, then you messed up, you did something wrong. And I don't disagree with him. In this case, with the Win x65, I think it does a good job with and without the PE foam, and it sounds good with the foam that it natively comes with. There's not a lot of mods that you need to do to it to make it sound good. And I've also stated in past videos that the PE foam is a very strong mod by itself. And although it can make any keyboard sound good with its unique sound signature, it's also the problem. It kind of takes away the natural characteristics of a keyboard in itself, and it just kind of makes everything sound the same. Like, to me, everything turns, with PE foam, everything just turns into a Jelly Epic or Mr. Soup. Now, there is a bunch of different combinations in terms of which and how many layers of foam you choose to install. Now, I didn't try them all, and nor will I have the time to either. I think I'm going to leave that up to you guys, the viewers, to try it when you get one, and report your findings and give your feedback down in the comments below if you can. This way we can all just contribute something to the community. Flexibility. There isn't a lot of room for flex, especially with all the layers of foam installed, and that's even with a soft flexible plate like Palm. I actually have a rant about flex tests, but I feel like I'm going to let that go in a separate video. Downside of the Win X65. The bottom case A could have been designed better. It should have been a smaller footprint, because when using a screwdriver on the 8 screws that hold the case together, I found that if you're not careful and don't go in straight, you might end up shearing off some paint like I did here if it makes contact with the case. This of course will depend on how thick your screwdriver actually is. They do provide you with thin hex keys, but personally, I don't like using those if I have access to a screwdriver. It's just much easier to use. And this design flaw is referring to the top part of the bottom case where it's elevated. Bottom part is fine as there are no clearance issues. I've sheared off 3 areas of paint on the upper part of the bottom case before I noticed what was going on, which includes both upper corners and one of the middle sections. So I do think there should be larger clearances here for wiggle room and how our hand naturally uses certain tools to access these screws. Okay, just a small comparison here. Within the same price range and slightly cheaper than the Mode 65. In my opinion, the Win 65 sounds better. You don't have to mod it to make it sound better. Mode 65, on the other hand, does need a little bit of work to achieve better sound. However, I think also that the Mode 65 overall has a better design. It's built better. There's more options to it, and it's easier to work with. In summary, the Win X65 sounds great to my ears for the price. There's no hollowness. There's also not a lot of room for flex if you're into that, at least with a lot of the foam or all of the foam installed into the case, but it can also use a better bottom case design. I feel that this keyboard is more for advanced builders, and you will also need to approach the building process with caution because of the clearance on the bottom case. But still actually a very good keyboard for the price if you like the looks and sound. Okay, 500 units opens February 15th on Win Studios. Thank you so much for watching. That's all I have for this video. And let me know what you think of this review down in the comments below, and I'll catch you next time.